Hi, my name is Serena. I am an avid and somewhat voracious reader, and this is just a video about what I read this month. This is more of a personal thing for me, just more than it is like trying to make content. It's just a good way to help get my thoughts down on paper, or I suppose on video. I have been taking notes on even my casual reading lately, just so I can think a bit more critically about what I read in all genres, and I figured this would be a nice way to help facilitate that even further. So this is mostly just a quick summary and thoughts about what I read this month. If you happen to find this via YouTube recommendations, or if you get a link sent to you, hopefully you can at least come out of it with a recommendation. That being said, let's get into what we read. First book of the month, we started off with A Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin. My book club read A Game of Thrones back in, I want to say February or maybe March, but I think it was February. And it's just like a good starting point to the book club, something we all knew we were going to enjoy. However, I was the only person in there who was going in completely blind. Have never watched Game of Thrones TV show or anything, just completely blind into it. And I've stuck with that. The first book was phenomenal, and the second one is also really good. A little bit weaker, but I still am greatly enjoying it. I came off of a kind of bad modern fiction book club book at the end of April, so it was really nice to start out May off with George R. R. Martin's prose. The man is just gifted with words in a way that's hard to describe. And his prose makes Westeros and his characters feel so much more alive in a way that a lot of modern fantasy can't really compare to, I feel. Everything about the book is just so beautifully captured in both the world and the people and the politics in it. It makes you really keep wanting to turn the page. Overall, it was a little bit weaker than the first book, like I said, but I wanted to note that the thing that this book did way better was even in the minor character POV chapters, they make you care so much more about them than I felt I did in a lot of the other characters in A Game of Thrones. The primary example being the book opens with a chapter on a character by the name of Maester Cressen, and just in the one chapter, not really super relevant to the book as a whole, but even just in that one chapter, George kind of takes you through a day in the man's life as he's trying to convince his or get back into good favor with Lord Stannis, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking at the end of the chapter when he gets thrown away, because he just makes you deeply feel for this character off the bat right there. And there's a lot of other smaller POV characters in the book that do the same thing, really. Davos is the other one to note. Overall, I'm really looking forward to the next book, but I am taking it kind of slow because, I'll be waiting on Winds of Winter like everyone else eventually. I'll probably get to it later this year. I really did enjoy the more presence of the supernatural in this book that the world kind of teased at the end of the first book. It was largely absent for a lot of the early parts of book one, which was fine. I understand that it was there more set dressing at that point and letting us more focus on the politics of the world. But I think this book strikes a good balance between the back and forth politics at King's Landing and the more mystical sides of George R. R. Martin's world in the north and the east, with Jon and Daenerys. The strong start was probably not my favorite book of the month, but it was still really, really solid. Book 2 for the month was Snow Crash by Neal Stephenson. Neal Stephenson is a pretty famous author. This is actually the only book I've read of his, and also, despite my general affection for 80s and 90s genre fiction, a lot of sci-fi, a lot of fantasy. I actually have some of my favorites right here with the Hyperion Cantos. But despite all that, I'm actually woefully lacking on cyberpunk. I have read Neuromancer, who's also here. Haven't read the sequels, but I have them there. I mean to. But other than that, I'm pretty blind on the genre, and I've since learned that this was kind of meant to be a bit of a satire, a bit tongue-in-cheek per se. But even even with that knowledge now, I can still say that it still stood on its own pretty well as someone who's not super familiar with the genre. The pacing in this book is just electric. It's amazing. It's full sprint, never takes a moment to breathe, exhausting to read in the best kind of way. It's constantly bouncing back and forth between like thriller and action and humor and mystery, and it never really takes a second to stop and let you gather your thoughts. It's always on to the next thing, and it almost always sticks the landing, so to speak. It's very impressive. It's interesting to see like the way that it extrapolates a future America. It's very overly white and Japanese, like a lot of cyberpunk I know is, and which is like kind of misses the mark at some points, but like it's still fun. And the more interesting part is to see how it's kind of wildly absurdist extrapolation of capitalism has panned out in the modern day. And the answer is soberingly, it got a lot right. The kind of continued corporatization of like religion and housing and even organized crime really rings true today. Still very relatable and still relevant to the modern day. Though there are some bits that's fun to see where you kind of missed the mark. There's at one point in the band there is or in the book there's a mention of a Freon ban, which is like gives very 90s ozone hole kind of panic, which wouldn't be as forefront today. But other than that, it's still just like a microcosm of what modern day America is kind of devolving into. Great read. A lot of the plot of the book revolves around reframing some of these, or reframing and twisting some ideas about the Protestant church as kind of like a viral mimetic info hazard kind of thing, which is interesting to see, having grown up in a lot of those Protestant and Southern Baptist spaces. It lent the book a lot of staying power to me and made a lot of it really relatable, having grown up in a lot of these spaces with some of those kind of insidious methods of communication and ideas. Overall, it was just lovely. I can't praise enough how much the book just does not let you take a moment to think and manages to keep up that pace the whole way throughout the book. And there's one point, you have your two main protagonists bouncing forth between almost like heist-style chapters with one of them, while the other is going through what is essentially the world's most interestingly formatted Wikipedia page, and both sides are endlessly amusing, and it's a lot of fun. I highly suggest it, even if you're not super familiar with the genre. I think it stands on its own really well. It was probably my favorite book of the month. And my last book of the month, or rather my last book and change of the month, is The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka, and I also read In the Penal Colony, which is also in this book, this collection, per se. This is part of my kind of ongoing goal of rereading a lot of the classics I felt I did not give the thought they deserved in high school when I read them. I kind of fell in love with rereading a lot of classics after my college days, and I've been trying to go back and reread a lot of the ones I felt like I didn't appreciate as I should have. So this is my latest in that quest, and wow, it was good. Kafka's writing is melancholy and unsettling in a almost kind of clinical kind of way. Which sounds a little weird, but when you read it and you realize how just like punchy every single sentence is, it makes a lot more sense. Like the opening line of The Metamorphosis is iconic for a reason. As Gregor Samsa woke one morning from restless dreams, he found himself transformed in his bed into a monstrous vermin. Like, it's straightforward, it's unsettling, it's blunt, and it's just very good. The whole of The Metamorphosis is that kind of unsettling and melancholy feel as you watch Gregor Samsa's transformation into what is commonly depicted as a cockroach, but it's actually never mentioned in the book what kind of vermin or insect it is. And it's easy to read as a metaphor for disability, especially as a disabled person myself. Watching Gregor's family go from concern to reluctant assistance to relief at Gregor's eventual death is depressing and sobering in a way that really hits home when you've watched it happen with as a disabled person yourself, with your own family and with your friends and colleagues. I admire the way that Kafka makes you almost immediately switch up your opinions on both Gregor's mother and Greet. It's just absolutely stunning stuff. In the Penal Colony was also really good. More of that very clinical prose that is somehow both blunt and to the point, but also manages to capture some like fanatical reverence for the execution device featured in that short story. Both Metamorphosis and the Penal Colony are definitely well worth the read. Both are very super short even. So if you're a relatively fast reader, you can even get to the Metamorphosis in like a night. Highly suggest them both that and the short story. I'm looking forward to reading more Kafka in the future, and another classic reappreciation, so to speak, under my belt. Yeah, so that's what I read in brief for the month. Like I said, this is more just for me, just to get my thoughts down so I can more consistently talk about what I've been reading, even if it's just to my phone camera. But hey, if you did stumble across this, and I hope you either found a recommendation or maybe you just got to think a bit more about something you read recently yourself. Regardless, I will probably be doing this again next month, but for now, goodbye. Thanks for watching if you did.